Alright, starting from number 1. Comment on the following quote. Humans do good because they are afraid to be punished. What is this quote implying? Provide an example to illustrate your thinking. So, this quote implies a view of human behavior as primarily driven by fear and consequences rather than intrinsic moral values or empathy. It suggests that a cynical view of human nature, where actions are motivated more by its self-interest than actual altruism. For example, if a person decides not to steal because they fear legal repercussions rather than because they believe stealing is wrong, this aligns with the quote. Number 2. Would the quote above be stating positive law or natural law? Explain your answer. So this would actually be explaining positive law. This quote aligns more with positive law perspective. Positive law is based on the idea that laws are rules created by human authorities and people follow them to avoid being punished. It emphasizes the obedience and enacted laws. Number 3. Differentiate statute versus common law. Statute law versus common law. Statute law is written law passed by legislative bodies. It's specific, formal, and directly applicable as written. And common law is based on judicial decisions and precedents. It evolves over time through court decisions and is often less rigid, adapting to new situations and societal changes. According to the World Justice Project, what is the rule of law? What are the 4 pillars? And explain what the 4 pillars are. Alright, so the 4 pillars are: number 1, accountability. Everyone is held accountable under the law. Number 2, just laws. Laws should be clear, publicized, and stable, and protect fundamental rights. Number 3, open government. Laws are enacted and enforced transparently. And lastly, we have accessible and impartial justice. Justice is delivered timely by competent, ethical, and independent representatives. All right. 5. Identify 5 non-common sense facts about the parliament. Non-common sense facts about the parliament. The Speaker of the House can't speak in debates except in certain circumstances. There's a broad of internal economy that manages. There's a board of internal economy that manages the financial and administrative matters of the parliament. The mace is a symbol of authority and must be placed on the table of the House of Commons to meet. The Library of Parliament is the only original center block that survived in the fire of 1916. The Peace Tower bell rings every quarter hour. And now, name some non-common facts. So a fact would be, it was about the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. It was enacted in 1982, making a relatively young part of Canada's constitution. Section 25 specially recognizes and affirms Aboriginal rights. The Charter only applies to government actions, not private intersections. Section 33, notwithstanding clause, allows governments to pass laws that may override certain Charter of rights. The Charter of Rights with the phrase, whereas Canada is founded upon principles that recognizes the supremacy of God and rule of law. And now, question 7. According to the CCRF, you have the right to liberty and security. Are there situations where the government can revoke this access? And the answer is yes, they can. Let me just find where it is. Right here. The government can legally justify removing someone's right to liberty in certain situations, such as arrest and detention for a crime, incarceration after a fair trial, or in case of mental health emergencies where a person poses danger to themselves or others. For example, COVID. If you had COVID, this posed a threat to others or yourself, so they had the access to lock you up and stuff. Question 8. Section 8 of the Charter of Rights deals with rights against unreasonable search and seizure. Understanding this right requires having an understanding of the concept of reasonable expectation of privacy. Explain this term by differentiating between personal, informational, and territorial searches. So, illegally obtained evidence, which is admissible. Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedom allows some flexibility under the fruit of the poison tree. Doctrine evidence is obtained illegally is generally not admissible. However, if evidence If evidence's probative value outweighs its prejudicial effect, it may be admitted. So if it makes the government look bad that they let this go, they won't let it go. Question 9. Provide 2 examples to illustrate where expectation of privacy does not exist and 2 examples where it does exist. So, where it does exist is your home and your personal electronic devices that you did not consent to being searched. And where it does not exist is public places like the street and open fields, for example, airport and the park, or community center, airport and community center. And where it does exist is your home and your car. Question 10, is illegally obtained evidence ever admissible in court? Explain when it is and when it's not. So illegally obtained evidence of admissibility. Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedom allows some flexibility. Under the fruit of poison tree doctrine, evidence obtained illegally is generally not admissible. However, if the evidence probative value outweighs its prejudice effect, it may be admitted. And yeah. Personal searches. We're gonna spin back to question 8. Section 8 of the Charter of Rights, reasonable expectation of privacy. This term refers to the concept of individuals to have right to expect privacy in certain situations. It ranges depending on context. Personal searches involves searching a person's body. High expectation of privacy. Informational searches involves examining personal data like phone records, varies in expectations. Territorial searches are related to places like homes or office, generally in a high expectation of privacy. Now, for the right to liberty, spinning back to question 8, the government can legally justify removing someone's right to liberty in certain situations, such as the arrest or detention of a crime, incarceration after trial in cases of mental health emergencies where a person poses a threat to others. Now, going back to question 11. Explain the following terms, concepts in your own words. Notwithstanding clause. A provision in the Canadian Charter that allows federal or provincial governments to pass legislations that override certain sections of the Charter for a renewable period of 5 years. Sovereignty, the full right and the power of governing bodies to govern itself without any interference from outside sources or bodies. Treaty/conventions, a formal agreement between 2 or more states in reference to peace, alliance, commerce, or other international relations. Personal inviolability, a principle in diplomatic law that ensures diplomats are not susceptible to lawsuit or prosecution under the host country laws. Extraterritoriality, the state of being exempted from jurisdictions of local law, usually as a result of diplomatic negotiations. Persona non grata, a foreign person who is entering or remaining in a particular country is prohibited by the country's government. Economic sanctions, domestic penalties applied by one country or a group of countries on another for various reasons, usually political. Next question. International law can be challenging to establish. Provide 3 reasons why this may be true. Challenges in establishing international law. Sovereignty of nations. Nations may be reluctant to commit to laws that could limit their sovereignty. Diverse legal systems. Different countries have varied legal systems and principles in making universal laws challenging to create. Enforcement difficulties. There's no global authority to enforce international law, making compliance voluntary or dependent on international consequences. Next question. Provide not so known facts about the United Nations. Not so known facts is the UN does not have its own military. It relies on contributions of troops from other member states. The first UN General Assembly in 1946 had 51 member states. Now it has 193. The regular budget does not include the budgets for peacekeeping operations. The design of the UN flag was initially a badge for the United Nations Conference of International Organizations in 1945. Okay, next question. What is a collective security and how does it help maintain peace and security around the world? Collective security. It's a system in which a group of nations act as one to preserve the peace of all. It's designed to dissuade any member state from acting in a manner that threatens peace. If such threats emerge, it aims to respond collectively. 1,000 divided by 60, 16 minutes. Okay, we could keep going. Okay, next one. Are signing a treaty or ratifying a treaty the same thing? If not, I'll explain how they differ. Signing versus ratifying a treaty. Signing a treaty is primarily endorsement, indicating a country's intent to comply with the treaty. However, ratification is the official confirmation and binding acceptance of the term of the treaty. Do you think diplomatic immunity should continue to be practiced? Why or why not? Diplomatic immunity should continue, but with oversight. It promotes international relations and cooperation, but there should be mechanisms to prevent abuse of power. And explain the role of Interpol in helping police around the world. This is question 17. The role of Interpol facilitates international police cooperations. It provides a network for police in different countries to share information and assist each other in solving international crimes. Question 18. Interpol issued color notices as a way to communicate, gather, or info on national police forces. Sum up each color notice into one or two words. Red means wanted person, blue means locate, identify, or obtain information, green means general alert, yellow is locate missing persons, black unidentified bodies, orange threats from hidden weapons, purple modus operandi objects, devices, or concealment methods. Next question. 19. Provide 3 criteria that would entice candidate to extradite a criminal back to their home. So the criteria for this would be the crime is recognized as a serious crime in both countries. Evidence is sufficient to justify a prosecution. Ensures a fair trial in the requesting country. Question 20. Explain the importance of international trade and international community. Importance of international trade. It drives economic growth, enhances global relations, and allows countries to acquire resources and goods they cannot produce efficiently. Why do companies agree? Question 21. Why do companies agree to pay government tariffs and exported goods? Paying tariffs and exports, companies agree to pay tariffs as it allows them to access foreign markets, which can be crucial for expanding their business and reaching new customers and diversifying their business. Question 22. Differentiate the functions of the International Crime Court and the International Court of Justice. International Criminal Court versus International Court of Justice. The ICC tries individuals for crimes like genocide and war crimes. The ICJ settles legal disputes between states and advises on international legal issues. Lastly, 23 question. Why would the governments impose economic sanctions on other countries? Describe an example of an economic sanction. Governments impose sanctions to influence or punish other nations for actions that violate international norms or threaten their interests. For example, a sanction imposed against Russia following its annexation of Crimea in 2014, or the sanctions on Russia following the Russia-Ukraine war in 2022.